Croissant. The deliciousness of a viennoiserie pastry made with French laminated dough and yeasted yeast. This mouth-watering treat is known for its buttery, flaky texture and irresistible taste. Croissants can treat you to a truly delightful experience that will leave you craving for more. It's also surprising how little known the fact is that croissants actually have their origins in Austria. This delicious pastry, often associated with France, can be traced back to its Austrian roots. Because of their traditional crescent shape, croissants got their name. A process known as laminating involves rolling and folding the dough several times in quick succession before rolling it into a thin sheet. A flaky, layered texture resembling puff pastry is produced by the process. Since the Renaissance and possibly even earlier, bakers have been creating crescent-shaped breads and cakes to display their artistry. These delightful pastries, known as kipferls, are popular in French bakeries and patisseries as well as in Austria, where they have become a culinary tradition. These crescent-shaped treats have endured the test of time and continue to enchant taste buds with their deliciousness thanks to a long, international history. When French bakers switched the kipferl's brioche dough for a laminated dough fermented with yeast, they created the modern croissant. They were transformed into a portion of fast food that could be freshly baked by unskilled labor in the late 1970s with the invention of factory-made, frozen, pre-formed but unbaked dough. In many European nations, croissants are a staple of the continental breakfast, and they are also popular as desserts everywhere else. The origin and history. The kipferl, an Austrian pastry that predates the croissant and came in a variety of shapes, first appeared there in the 13th century. Kipferl can be made plain, with nuts or other fillings, and some people even consider rugelach to be a type of kipferl. The croissant was first produced when an Austrian artillery officer by the name of August Zang opened a Viennese bakery, Boulangerie Viennoise, at 92 Rue de Richelieu in Paris in 1839. Some sources say 1838, when it was adapted from the more basic form of kipferl before viennoiseries were created. This well-known bakery served the Vienna loaf and other Viennese specialties, which quickly attracted French copycats and gave rise to the concept, if not the term, of viennoiserie, a 20th century culinary genre. Imagine this. The aroma of hot pastries draws your attention as you are dressed stylishly. You stumble over your French as you order your first hot chocolate and croissant on this imagined trip to the city of love as you make your way up the cobblestone streets of Paris to a corner street patisserie. You can't help but utter the words, "Oh my God," as you take your first bite of the warm, buttery, flaky pastry. Everyone dreams of eating a croissant in the country where it originated. At least, I know I do. However, you would need to purchase a plane ticket to Vienna if you really wanted to travel to its origins. Even though eating croissants today may be associated with France, food and cultural historians generally agree that it originated in Austria. It is specifically claimed to have originated in Vienna, where it was and is still known as kipferl or kipfel. However, the only aspect of the Viennese pastry that resembles the croissant that we are aware of is its crescent shape. The kipferl looks denser and less flaky than a modern croissant and lacks the latter's distinctive sheen. But when it was allegedly invented in Austria, the bread's airiness and butteriness weren't top of mind. According to local lore, the creation of croissants, or at least the first iteration of croissants, followed an unsuccessful Ottoman Empire siege of Vienna in 1683. This story, which many now believe to be accurate if not practical, tells of a Viennese bread maker who got up early to bake. He alerted the guards when he heard the Turkish cavalry moving through the city tunnels. As a result, Austrian troops were able to get ready for the siege and ultimately prevailed. Everyone passed around bread and broke it together to celebrate the victory and the tip that proved to be essential to it. To further harm the Ottoman Empire, whose flag featured the symbol. They rolled it into a crescent shape. The Old High German word, Kipfer, which denoted a billy goat's horn, is where the word Kipferl originates. Pastries baked in a crescent shape were a common paganic practice long before the 17th century. Even in monasteries, croissant-shaped rolls were baked at Easter. Animal symbolism is a tradition in the church, especially during Easter. So, who brought the pastry to France? One widely accepted theory is that Marie Antoinette, the final monarch before the French Revolution, was responsible for introducing it to the nation. Perhaps she had allowed the peasants to eat croissants instead of cake. According to legend, Marie Antoinette, who liked the pastry, was born in Austria, missed her native country. She requested that her personal pastry chefs make her favorite childhood foods, including the Kipferl. The French were unable to resist it once it was introduced because of its delicious butteriness. A food historian, according to the report, maintains that this is just an urban legend. Given that the Queen received as much attention in her time as the Kardashians and Taylor Swift do today, he continues, this detail would have been documented. Entrepreneur Auguste Zang is one of the people who is most likely to have actually introduced Viennese baked goods to France and changed the history of French cuisine. In 1838, the Austrian established Boulangerie Viennoise and began selling a variety of bread and pastries to Parisians. One of them is the Kipferl, which the French took to immediately. 2 years later, imitations of what would eventually be called the croissant were being sold in every bakery and patisserie in the city. One of the most well-liked pastries in the world is the croissant, but few people are aware of its intriguing past. The French, who adopted the Austrian Kipferl as their national pastry, are unlikely to take offense, in my opinion. The fact is, the croissants are of Austrian origin, not French. So, what do you think? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching and take care of one another.